I'm glad to see a bigger room now, Fabro. I hope you appreciate this now. Yeah. Now join us for the engaging discussion of the more generalized topic, future of AI, featuring experts from diverse fields. Together, they'll explore how AI is transforming industries, reshaping knowledge sharing, and addressing global challenges. I hope we will gain insights into the trends, opportunities, and ethical considerations shaping the future of AI in this dynamic panel discussion. Now I present to you Alin Kalam, Head of AI Coordination and Market Intelligence at Unicom. Can I please give you an applause, please? Thank you. Let's support them. Bolick, founding engineer at Driver, and Fabro Steibel, executive director of its ITS Rio. Alin will also be the moderator of this panel. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the nice introduction. I would also love to welcome you folks on the stage. Thank you for sharing the stage. I hope it will be an interesting session for all of us. Yeah, I would not bore you out with my introduction, but my major focus in Unica Insurance, it's an insurance company. It's one of the biggest ones some of you might know in Central and East Europe. It's an Austrian company. I'm working there, and I'm leading the AI community or AI departments across 14 countries, and market intelligence is an advanced analytics field of working. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. I will be, kind of guiding the discussion in the upcoming half an hour, and we're really looking forward to exchanging as well, maybe towards the end, some ideas with you folks or answering some interesting questions. So I will give my mic to Ryan.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Ryan. It's super great to be on this panel and discussing the future of AI. A little bit about myself in a nutshell. My background is in engineering, particularly in the biomedical space. So I've worked on everything from R&D to medical devices to going to industrial design school and learning about how to build these products from a user-centric perspective. That took me into software development and the user experience. So I worked at a number of large companies there and then got the startup bug. So I've worked at a number of AI-based startups, and right now I'm working at a company called Driver, and we're all about technical documentation of different assets, particularly code bases. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about the ramifications of that in the future, but overall just really excited to be here, and I'll go ahead and pass it on to Fabro.
Oh, you have a mic. There you go. So hello everyone, I just presented a panel, so I'll be very brief in my introduction. I run a research center in Brazil, and I think I can define myself as an architect of questions. This is a term I just created, but the idea is that as a research center, we are looking for trend-setting topics. What we should be asking ourselves about the pros and cons of technologies for society. AI is a big topic. My background is marketing, policy, law, and now agribusinesses. So I like to mix things to have a very wide perspective on how to make questions.
All right, let's get this going. So I will start with you, Ryan, with an interesting question that came up this morning in my mind, knowing how complex technical documentations are in certain projects, in certain, especially AI or machine learning projects. We have a lot of platforms, a lot of digital support, let's say nowadays, when it comes to documentation of your piece of code and beyond that, in GitHub or some other platforms. But what is, like, so far, the most exciting AI project you have been part of? That's the question. And how was handling it, let's say, around what you do, documentation and bringing also transparency in what you do, right? So.
Yeah, so right now the most exciting AI project that I've worked on is the one I'm currently working on right now, which is at the company I'm at, Driver. And it's really interesting. There's been kind of just an assumption that we can throw generative AI at these tools. You can take a code base and let me just throw it into ChatGPT and see what it spits out. And the reality is the semantic space is not always kind to that, and the context window is not always kind to that. So you might not get the results that you want, and you might get hallucinations, for example. So one thing that's been really exciting with the work that we're doing right now is combining different techniques. So whether that's static analysis of a code base through something called tree sitter, to just simple identification and classification of keywords and functions within a code base. You really need all of these things to produce good technical documentation. And I'll explain what I mean by technical documentation in this context. It's taking a code base and explaining every file and folder at different levels of abstraction. So you start at the smallest file, and then you end up at maybe the root folder of a code base, and you have an idea of what's going on. And similarly to how we all work together as a diverse set of people, I found that the types of tools that you use to create different systems needs to also be diverse. So it's not necessarily just throwing generative AI. It's also not necessarily just throwing static analysis or traditional ML tools. It's really this like dance and combination of everything. So we've learned a lot on the way, and I would say that a big challenge is evaluation. So it's really exciting to try these things out. Where the rubber meets the road is evaluating and productionizing these tools. So, but I would say that, yeah, overall it's just been a really interesting dive into this new world, and to hear how people are talking about it nowadays. Like now you can sit at a dinner table at a restaurant and the people beside you are talking about AI. And that's just not something that I've experienced before. So it's now an interesting challenge to take this technology and bring it to people when they generally know what it is, but maybe not fully. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Fabro, this question goes to you regarding emerging markets, because I think, at least to me, maybe I'm biased or not well informed, but Brazil is not the kind of AI place you would expect, let's say, as for now. But coming from such a background as well, and being active cross-country, cross-borders in many countries, in our business in Unica, I know how much potential actually there might be or is actually existing in Brazil. Would you tell us a little bit more about what you particularly do to foster that, to drive, let's say, the innovation within your environment, within your communities, and how somehow this will develop in upcoming maybe 1-2 years? That would be really interesting, I think, for all of us.
No, certainly. I think all Global South, they have very good examples of top-notch technology. So Brazil has Sabia. Sabia is a model released before ChatGPT 3.5. It's 75% as good and 10% as expensive. Now this model uses Llama, and there are other applications being built on that. The main difference is that all the data used speaks Portuguese, you speak health data from Brazil, it speaks lots of things that can work from that. Our previous panels will talk about Falcon from the Emirates that are using very good models to do it. South Africa have very good health sector doing this and so on. I think when you look to the Global South, the global majority, you see very good models being done, but the resources are very scarce. So you need to be 10 times smarter if you want to do it. But you do have cloud computing to use it. Latin America has 2% of all cloud computers. Brazil have half in the region. You do have very good universities, but brain drainage is high. So as soon as the people create good models, they flee to other countries because salaries are very good. But I would say we do have very good examples. And because Gen AI is about language lots of times, without creating local models, fostering open source communities and so on, we might have very bad results.
Yeah, that's quite interesting though. Knowing where the development is right now happening, like other societies or communities like India, China, they are also leveraging from the new available technology, especially in AI field, leapfrogging as well a lot in this field. But the challenges, I think, are more or less existing for all of us scaling up. That's, I think, one of the biggest challenges right now of AI projects or AI pieces of technologies, where they work pretty well in POC environment, in a closed environment where we can really try things out. But when we are facing our customers, for instance, in Unica, it's a huge strategic discussion as well. Will it pay off? Will it be secure enough? So I think there are lots of aspects, and Ryan, if we can maybe focus a little bit how a well documented, well transparent, put up, let's say, technology can work, towards that direction would be really interesting. How do you see that? Is it happening that we exchange a lot regarding the technical, let's say, aspects of certain solutions? Yeah, like a lot of people say AI is a black box right now. So how do you approach kind of these critiques towards our community, and what particularly you are doing right now to kind of address that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So really, in an unprecedented way, people have access to information that feels like it's coming from another person, and with that comes a lot of different effects, but one of them is this black box effect. Like, how does this actually spit it out? And it's sometimes easier to just accept that it is a black box, but I think the harder, more noble, what we should be doing is trying to break into that black box. And there is a field around this, around explainable AI and the responsible use of AI. So personally, to address this through the projects that I work on, I've been trying to understand what the latest research in explainable AI is. And without really boring the details of how the technical part of it works, you can find out a lot about a model that maybe you didn't know before. And it can lead to using tools in ways that maybe you didn't expect, or maybe you shouldn't trust this tool. Maybe we shouldn't trust this specific model if we really don't understand why the output is. There's a really interesting example in the computer vision space where some researchers had a model that classified types of birds, waterfowl, or just different birds. And it was, is it a waterfowl, a bird that is mostly in the water, or is it a bird that is on land? And 100% accurate, or very close. And wow, that's an incredible model. We should use this to classify birds, right? Like, let's put that out there in the world. So what these researchers did was actually they didn't remove the bird from the image. They removed the bird and they switched. So they put all of the birds that were in waterfowl in the land's context, and they took all the birds that were on land and put it in the waterfowl's context. And turns out that the model was just looking at the background. It really was not evaluating the birds themselves. So what you've essentially created is a really good model at identifying, is there water in the background or a tree? And that's not that's not the intent of the model. But if that's what gets out, and that's what people are using, and that's what people are trusting and citing, and now I've cited the source, and then that gets cited, and this cascades down. So, but taking that example, and you can say, okay, well, either we need to do two different things. We either need to use a different model, train our model better, or just pivot. I mean, that's always an option too, depending on your goal. So with regards to technical documentation and how you might use, in my space, is really B2B SaaS software. These are business decisions that are being made, and they affect people's lives. Everything from health insurance to car insurance to even just what the prices I see on a website are. So can we use all of these things responsibly? And what I try to do is explain this as much as possible to an end user. So if an answer is not fully confident, we need to explain that. And you can also explain how you got to the answer. So showing your work is really important. I mean, we basically all had to do it in grade school, and then at some point we just said, like, we're not going to show our work anymore. And it's important to do that, especially in these systems. People treat them as another human, but the reality is that they're not. They're a prediction. If we were talking about generative AI, it's a prediction model. It's predicting the next token. It's not reasoning. It's not giving you advice. It's presenting words to you that make sense based on a distribution, statistical distribution. So if we can acknowledge that, I think we can actually move forward in a much more human way.
Thank you. I will a bit reflect on it. It will be a bigger question. I'll reflect on what I was discussing about with Terry and co the other day in one of these roundtables over here. The question of like AI becoming a thing since a couple of years in the mainstream population, and energy consumption and all these challenges that we have to tackle in near future regarding global warming and all this stuff. Our community, the AI community or the data community, we can call it as well, is actually not right now not helping much with our algorithms, which consume much more energy than usual Google queries or searches. So there was this critique like, will this technology be really supporting communities outgrowing their challenges? Yeah, like I have my origins in Southeast Asia, and I've been there a couple of times, and a couple of years ago, once I was there, especially in India, I saw in the most rural areas, people being able to pay, literally cashless without electricity. So they don't have, in mid-India, any electricity or floating water. So no infrastructure at all, but they're able to pay with their old Nokia phones, in a fully digital way. So communities are leapfrogging. They're overjumping certain evolutionary, let's say, steps we have gone through in the West, in some other developed countries. So what is your overall take being engaged to your community, especially in Rio or in Brazil even? Like, how are you, guiding your community? What kind of research projects are you doing? Are you even reflecting on these kind of topics, focusing, or is it even interesting for you folks over there or not? So that would be hopefully a useful question.
Yes, I think we should please pay close attention to the idea of kicking the stairs. So 21% of Ireland's energy today is expanding data centers. That's a lot. However, energy AI has a huge benefit as well to save energy. I'll give you an example that has 15 years old. I was in Shenzhen. I visited a company that was using AI to just check the tires of a bus company for better energy use and so on. They saved 40% of energy just by checking the tires. So data centers consume a lot of energy, but AI can save a lot of energy. And then when you come to the global south perspective, or people that used to pay only by cash and now they can use cashless transactions, we are talking about access to rights. So if you don't have access to a hospital, I prefer that you have access to a hospital than using energy to pay for data centers and so on. So kicking the stairs is the idea that once you go to the top, you just kick the stairs so others cannot follow. When you talk about underserved communities, vulnerable communities, and so on, we should pay close attention to dangers you can inflict. But digital payments, digital ID are very good examples on how technology can greatly increase access to rights and services when they reach more people. A very quick example, Brazil has PIX. PIX is a digital payment systems that is infrastructure. PIX has 3 years old. It already overpassed all other forms of payments in Brazil that are there for 30 years. Plus, PIX is responsible for 80% of the population joining the bank system. So now 8% of Brazilians have a digital account system just because they can use this kind of technology.
Yeah. Also, like the other day, I was discussing with a professor called Günther Klamber. So he's specially researching on new energy efficient, way of building and training large language models. The solution, it's not productive yet. It's a theory. It's called XLSTM. I don't know, some of you might know it. It should consume even less energy, significantly less energy than today. Also, another example I got to know a couple of years ago is, it's not a blockchain session or a crypto session, but there is a, crypto community is also being held hostage or being accused, like you folks are destroying the environment by mining and all this stuff. So there are certain new types of tokens and algorithms that massively, let's say, massively use less, let's say, energy than before, like Ethereum, and there's other solution called Near. So it is possible if we follow the approach of radical transformation and radical technological development to even tackle, I think, bigger challenges we are facing today, maybe we can solve them in near future by, leveraging these technologies. By the way, I don't know if you folks know it, roughly they say 1.45% of the global energy usage is being consumed by computers. Yeah, and it is to be projected in upcoming 2 or 3 years, go up to 5%, which is doubling up or even more just within 2 years. It's unbelievable. So it's not a challenge only, but I think it's also a chance for us, leveraging from the communities that we've built across the globe to connect with each other, and also, kind of globally approaching these kind of big topics, right? Especially in research field, Fabro. Yeah. Okay. So, Ryan, after all we have discussed and shared so far, the complexities of AI algorithms, or let's say advanced analytics algorithms, I call them as for now, are not getting lesser. Yeah. So there is an open source movement, of course, opening up things, showing your homeworks, what you did so far, but also it is important to keep the momentum for like private companies to keep what they're doing. At the same time, they have to challenge between like securing what they're doing to keep their positions and also share. Otherwise, they wouldn't also grow. So when you have projects in Driver, do you especially focus on businesses, let's say on small medium businesses, or are they really usually big cross-country corporate projects, or is it both?
Yeah, so it's both. We've worked with a number of different companies, from multinational conglomerates to a small business with a couple dozen employees or even less, and everyone has the same concern, which is data privacy. And we specialize in code bases, so you're essentially handing over your IP. And how are we handing this over the internet? And what does that mean? And it's interesting because it's really, really important to make deals happen, and for us just as a company to be secure. But so and I would say broadly, just B2B, company to company, this is well defined typically, and generally well respected, the walls around like data and data privacy. But when you go to the consumer level, which is really how most of us interact, ChatGPT, Claude, if we stay on the Gen AI subject, it really is completely different. A concrete example is we have an enterprise account with ChatGPT and Claude, and every single time I open a chat, it explicitly says that my data won't be used to train models. However, when I open it up as a consumer on my personal account that I'm not paying for, it says nothing. It does not say that. Yeah, it gives me the one side of it, that you're not going to use it because we've already secured this enterprise agreement. But for a consumer, it's not saying we are using your data to train models. And this, to me, this is a big disconnect, and it's something that I would like to. It's why I like to have these conversations, because personally as a maker of software and talking to people who make software, like, it really is a responsibility to use these tools and communicate about them in a way that people know what they're doing, because really in an unprecedented way, data can just get leaked. And we've given the world a human to talk to. So I trust you. I'm going to give you my health information. I'm going to give you this. And who knows when that data is going to get leaked. So I think that's a really big concern. And then I was also thinking about what you were saying with energy consumption. And it is a responsibility on the tool makers to understand the tools that you're using to build the tool. For example, if you're simply a GPT wrapper, do you need to make essentially trillions of calculations and use however much water it is to query 2 + 2? No, I have a calculator that can do that with a little solar chip on, it's been around forever. And so there's definitely some responsibility to understand actually the tools that we're wielding. And I think that it could make a significant impact. And then combine that with hardware, which probably isn't talked about enough. Can we increase the capacity of hardware to do this in a more energy efficient way? So I think it's really a two-pronged approach. It's how do you responsibly build a tool and communicate it, and then how do you responsibly use, build a technology around it.
So I think we're approaching towards the end. We'll be accepting some questions if something is open. Let's approach the last kind of question. I rather, if I'm moderating every now and then, let people wish a thing, right? What do you wish? What do you see coming towards us, towards our community in upcoming, let's say 5 years is a big time frame. I would say 1 to 2 years, even that might be too big of a time scale. That's kind of the core question, and I'll build around it now. So I think, and I'm teaching at Technical University Vienna for a while now, for a couple of years, and approaching and seeing my students, how they're, not only writing their theses, but as well how they're approaching the topic of advanced analytics and AI is a surprise to me, because also we are growing fast with the technology. So we have this unbelievable adaptation capabilities, I think, and as human beings. But nonetheless, the biggest challenge I see, I will start with that in upcoming couple of years, is using AI tools for reasonable things, to create not a business value at all, but it can be also a service to our customers that is meaningful. Not 2 + 2, hopefully, but also making AI scalable and as well transparent, right? So every one of us here and there flies to a destination, and at least in Europe and US as well, you would see, okay, for this journey, you are creating, I don't know, 2 tons of CO2 or whatever. So maybe we can drive our AI solutions also towards a kind of transparency more, as young kids, youngsters, or next generation will be using them to know, okay, you now, let's say, used 20 liters of water just for one query. Something like this that would not only guide us through the evolution of the technology, but also give us this component of having control of what is happening and how we want to design our future. So my wish to our communities would be not using less ChatGPT or not using less, AI tools or computational power, but using them meaningfully, using them in a way to really create a value for our end customers or even our communities. So this is the one big wish I would have today. Ryan, would you love to go ahead?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I have a 2-year-old, so thinking about the world that he's going to be growing up in. And I actually kind of wish that it might be weird to say this, but humanize these technologies a little bit, because there's an implicit trust in these machines, and they hallucinate. Many of these talks have mentioned hallucinations, and a lot of people will walk away from a solution because of that. And the reality is people make mistakes and hallucinate, and people need context. People need time to get to the right answer, and these systems do as well. And so because really they're based on research on how we presume that the brain works, neural networks, transformer models, attention. It's really how we think, and at least as approximated as we can with the current technologies. So I think if we can humanize these things a little bit more, and it can actually help us understand a little bit more about ourselves. Personally, I understand a lot more about how my son learns, because I've learned so much about machine learning. And it's really interesting to look at it through that lens of, this is the most advanced AI model in the world, and we all are that. So I think that we can build towards solutions that are really more for us, as opposed to taking a technology and just applying it wherever. So, that's really, I think, would be, for me, something that would be really interesting just collectively to explore over the next few years.
My dream is for more prompt banks. So you do have these websites where people get the prompts.
The Christmas wish.
Yeah, they have this websites where they just put the prompts they use. And if you use Hugging Face, if you use GitHub, it means you are a little bit of a geek and then you can access code. But these prompt banks are what real people are using to access things. So we are creating one for lawyers to use it. So how can you be a better lawyer by better prompting whatever system you're doing, Perspectly or OpenAI or whatever. We are creating another one for teachers in schools, how they can use it. I love my students to, I incentivize my students to use GPT to do essays for me, and I rank them according to how good the questions they ask the system does, and not exactly the answer.
Through adaptability, yeah.
So I'm actually grading them on the prompts they can create on how to ask queries. So my dream is that more people can speak to the technology, and GenAI, LLMs, models allow people to speak to technology. It was not possible before. And it's quite technical how you speak with it. So this is why I want more prompt banks to exist. Very specific, very wild, very easy to share, kind of open source culture of just how do we make good questions to models.
It can be a community-based thing, right? So where individuals as us, so-called trainers of the models, provide their knowledge and share it with others. So can be a thing, yeah? Okay. Would be accepting questions if there are any. I see already one. Please address the person as well so that we can really focus on answering it.
Actually, this would be a question for all of you, but only one can answer. So you mentioned the ecological impact of using AI solutions and like the costs of all of it. But when we are talking, this is like the first step. But do you consider like a little bit further future, which is actually coming quite well when you are reading about researchers, and also focus a little bit more on the potential synergy of quantum computing and AI? So in that sense, that it is near that quantum computers are going to be able to give us better AI models in the sense of responses that we get, but also faster responses. So do you is this a topic of any of your interests for right now, or what's your opinion about it?
No, I think for me, the most challenging thing for quantum computers is not even the hardware itself. We have to cool it down and so on. It's the algorithms. What kind of algorithms we have that work better with quantum logic, qubits, than with linear logic? So this is why encryption is a good case, because we do have a very good algorithm to make quantum computing more efficient that way. But we have very few of these algorithms. For AI, I would say we still don't have good algorithms that make AI better. We can do good things with quantum logic, but not solving problems. So I would say that we're still better. We are more efficient with linear ones. That said, one thing I like very much is federated learning. It's still not that efficient, but it's becoming better. And I see how federating learning, that you have to distribute so quick, so many times, so many tasks in so few time, how quantum computer might have good algorithms for that. But I don't think it's something coming too quick.
Maybe I'll take that just out of the context of Austria winning the Physics Nobel Prize 1 year ago. It was Professor Zeilinger from my university was the Nobel Prize winner, and he is specialized in quantum computing. So also Vienna is a place for fundamental research in this area. So what I do is, I invest time in it. I try to understand how quantum logic works and how quantum algorithms will be working, but in general, it's not a thing yet. It is maybe working in area of information transformation, like networking. But overall, I think it will be another leapfrogging moment in human history. Most probably, Professor Zeilinger says in 5 to 10 years. Europe has a good place in this. But overall, I think this kind of upcoming technologies must be built on strong global approaches and communities where we work cross-border. So just to sum up, and another aspect of it is the practicability of it. We just don't know yet in which areas we'll be using them. Will it be network security? Will it be, you know, in a specific field of AI? I'm expecting, as an expert in AI field, we getting into AI quantum algorithms, let's say, as one of the mid steps, or rather last steps. First, we need to focus first some basics, like 2 + 2 would be really nice in this context to sort out first, and then go ahead. So it's a thing. It will be there most probably, as it looks like, but not yet. We have to be patient a bit, I think. Right? Would you love to?
Yeah, it's basically going from binary 0 and 1 to everything in between, and which is really exciting from a model perspective. We're not, there yet to support, fully leaning into this, but I think that it's important to now, while it's simpler, binary is a lot simpler, just conceptually, to work to understand how these systems work. Because if we just jump straight into quantum at a large scale, I don't know, I think that black box only gets bigger, exactly, less accessible. So, but maybe it's more accessible if we do the things we need to do now. So in 5 to 10 years, when it's more mainstream, we can start to understand. So a lot of really interesting work in that field. I think that the first interactions people will have with quantum computing, especially related to AI, are going to be indirect. So these are going to be larger organizations using it for large-scale data analytics, things that are being used for quantum already, but it's just going to be applying similar techniques. So I think it's going to be a number more years before people have access to it, but this is going to be a similar conversation to when we had computers in a room this big. It's eventually going to scale down to a human level, and the more we can work hard now to understand things, the better it's going to be when that time comes.
Any other question? I think we're right towards the end. Okay, no questions. I see right now. Thank you, folks, for your attention and participating. Yeah, see you around.